Hello, good afternoon. Can I hear some good afternoon here? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. We've just had lunch. We're going to be talking about food, and that's why I was insisting on hearing a very fertile good afternoon. Once again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yokoso Minasama. Today, we are going to discuss agricultural innovation and green growth, transforming Africa's investment landscape. And this event is hosted by Japan, so thank you so much, Japan. Everywhere you turn in Africa, you see and find opportunity. In agriculture, you have 65% of the world's remaining arable land enough to produce food for billions of people. Look at the people of Africa themselves. They're young, they're dynamic, they're innovative, and vibrant. The potential for green growth is enormous. Above us is the sun for solar. Across, you've got water, you've got wind. And beneath the surface, you've got geothermal. It is ready for investment across all sectors. Today, this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, we have top-class moderators for today's session. Executive Director Takaki Nomoto-san, and with a very great panel as well. We'll have a second session moderated by Mr. Ken Shibusawa-san, Chairman, Japan Middle East Africa Relations Committee of Keizai Doyukai. Again, he will be having a great panel. So this afternoon is one like no other. And I don't want to say, sit back and relax, no. Actually, get ready to engage. Because you too, the audience, you'll get a moment to interact with the panel. The moderators will be guiding you through the proceedings, and my role here is a simple one. I'm going to introduce an internationally revered leader with a distinguished track record of making a difference. And he's done that wherever he has served. Look at what he did when he was Minister for Agriculture in Nigeria for the 4 years before becoming the president of the African Development Bank Group. He introduced digital technology into agriculture. The e-wallet, if you remember it. It cut out the middleman, ensuring the right fertilizer and seeds are in the hands of farmers. He provided a solution. He made a difference, and here we are, under his leadership, the African Development Bank, working closely with governments, regional and international partners to transform Africa's food and agriculture sector. And with it, the possibility of a food-secure continent with great potential as a food basket for the world. The results are evident. They are impressive. Ethiopia has done it with wheat. Sudan, despite the crisis, they're posting impressive results as well. Tanzania has done it with maize, a staple food in Eastern and Southern Africa. So the story of Africa changing from a begging bowl to a food basket is being written. And it's a time now to give it a headline. And that's normally reserved for the editor-in-chief. And the editor-in-chief of this story is none other than the president of the African Development Bank Group and the chairman of the African Investment Forum, Dr. Akiwumi Adesina. Help me to welcome him to the stage.
Well, thank you very much, Director. I'm glad to be here with you at the start of your event. I'm sorry I have to rush to other events, but first, let me say how delighted I am that we are putting this event together, and we have great participation from Japan. Last year, when we actually gathered, we had 80 investors from Japan. Then I went to Japan. That was great, by the way. Then I went with Japan with your very dynamic executive director, Takaki Nomoto-san. And I spoke with the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Trade, met with all the ambassadors there, went to the beautiful University of Tokyo, and also spoke to quite a lot at Kaisai, Zukai. Where is Ken? I thought you should be in front. I was, so please come in front. You can sit there, and I'll tell you guys why. No, let him come in front. Yeah, after he gets there, I'll tell you why I'm telling you to. First, he has to be in front because of who he is. But also, Ken is chairman also at the Kaisai Yukai, which is the private sector leadership group of Japan. But his grandfather, great-grandfather, yes, so we got to make sure there's a little bit of difference. Great-grandfather was, if you look at the Japanese currency, where is that money? You look at the Japanese money, his great-grandfather's photograph was here. And so I was telling Executive Director Nomoto and also Ken Kurosawa that this is great that they've actually come up with the 10,000 with your great-grandfather's photo on it, because it makes the replenishment of the African Development Fund 17 replenishment easier through advance commitment from you. And today we have 100 investors coming all the way from Japan. Thank you very much. Japan, as you know, is a very critical member of the African Development Bank. Japan, we have folks from the Ministry of Finance here. At the AIF24 replenishment, Japan provided us with more than $604 million, for it in the 16 replenishment. In Japanese yens, that was 27% increase on that, which was fantastic, and we are grateful for that. But beyond that, Japan also supports us with concessional donor loans, which allows us to be able to do it. I think last time you gave us $420 million in terms of concessional donor loan, which is the largest, which makes Japan the largest contributor of concessional donor loans to the African Development Bank. And so when it also comes to Japan, I always say that I have great memories of Japan because as I was talking to the delegation when I met them before this event, when it was time for my election in 2015, I was waiting for elevators, and there was a lot of elevators. People couldn't come down. And I saw one elevator, the only one that stopped on my floor. And I looked in it, it was full of Japanese. And the vice minister then was Mr. Asakawa. And as the elevator opened, I entered. I said, "I'm sorry, I'm Japanese." And of course, they voted for me, and so I have very good attachment to Japan. Let me also thank you very much, Edie Nomoto, and also thank Executive Director Kawanashi. Is he here? Right there. Please clap for them for putting together, and all their teams, putting together this particular session that we have today. And you'll be talking about, basically, I met with a group. The delegation that is here covers several things. Mr. Ken Shibusawa here has a private equity fund, which is $100 million, and which is called AND Capital, in which we are committed to working with them to provide $10 million to that. And we have JICA here, we have JBIC here, we have NEXI here. We also have a big bank, Mitsuo Bank here, Sumusoto Corporation. And we also have folks that are looking at one of the things we'll be talking about, which is on energy or green metals or minerals and things like that. JERMEC, the Japanese agency for looking at energy security and green metals. And so you have here today, you have Nippon, you have all the big companies out of Japan here. I couldn't be happier because when I went to Japan the first time, there's a lot of risk aversion, and today it's different. Japan, the key word, I gave an interview with Nikkei, and I said, buy Africa, invest in Africa. And today you have Japanese companies, corporations, big corporations here in Africa, buying Africa and investing in Africa. Please keep it up to them. The three issues we're going to be talking about today is really about agriculture, and then you're going to be talking about energy and innovation. And let me start with agriculture. Agriculture is the place to be. You know, you may like oil and gas, that's fine, but nobody drinks oil and nobody smokes gas. But everybody eats food, and they eat it 3 times a day if you have enough money to do that. With global inflation, it may not be so obvious for that. But food is very, very important. And why is this important for Africa? Africa has 65% of all the uncultivated arable land left to feed the world, 9.5 billion people in the world by 2050. It's not in Asia, it's not in America, it's not in China or anywhere else. It's in Africa. So what Africa does with agriculture is going to affect the world. And as an investor, you should take a look at this space, because the size of the food and agricultural market in Africa will be worth a whopping $1 trillion by 2030, which is just 6 years from now. So agriculture is very important. And as you think about that, we also have to think of the modernization of agriculture. In an era of climate change, innovation, which is one of the things you'll be talking about, it's very important. Innovation in tackling climate change. Innovation in terms of how you have better ways of fertilizing crops. Innovation in terms of how you're able to use artificial intelligence and big data. Innovation in terms of how you are going to be able to deploy drones to be able to monitor moisture, monitor weather, determine information that farmers can use. And I think, as the moderator also said, digital innovation in terms of digitalizing farmers and getting them to financial inclusion. In fact, at the African Development Bank, we have something called a Community Pass program that we are doing with MasterCard. And together with MasterCard, we're trying to get literally 100 million African farmers with access to digital information that they can use to connect to financial services, to mechanization, or any extension, anything else. So digitalization of the agricultural space is very important, and I know that you have quite a lot of companies here from Japan that are actually doing that. You know, whether it is automation, whether it is, you know, actually doing hydroponics and things like that, in which you don't even need soil to grow the crops. These are the things that we need to do, and I know that you are here on that. The second thing I want to say is the private equity venture capital funds that can drive this innovation. You know, I'm delighted I see some of them in front right here that are young Japanese, that actually have private equity funds, venture capital funds, that are invested in different areas from health. They're investing in digital information for health, in agriculture, water, sanitation, you name it, they're there. And these young Japanese are quite different. You know, I remember talking to you, so what's your name again? Huh? Yeah, Kajima, yeah. Maybe you should stand up so everybody sees what I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah, please sit down, yeah. And I was talking to him, and I remember, you know, when I was in Japan, he didn't have any, he said, all I see is opportunities in Africa, opportunities. I don't see risk, I just see opportunities. So these are the young generations of Japanese investors that we're seeing today that are thawing. You know, you take ice, you put it out in the sun, after some, it begins to thaw. And these guys are thawing the investment space in Africa because they believe in Africa. They have innovation and all of that. So I think that's very, very important. And lastly, just on the issue of energy. No continent, no country can develop without energy. You can't industrialize in the dark. You cannot be competitive in the dark. And so energy is the lifeblood of economies. And that's why at the African Development Bank, investing in energy is critical for us. With one of our high fives is Light Up and Power Africa. You might have read recently that myself and Ajay Banga, president of the World Bank, got together and we said, look, so let's make sure Africa has electricity. And I don't mean light, I just don't mean light. Let's make sure we have grid-based power to be able to industrialize, to be able to be competitive. so that we're not exporting raw agricultural commodities. So we're actually processing those things. And so I want to say that energy is very, very important, and I'm very glad to say that we'll be having this summit on energy from the 27th to 28th of January next year, to which the Japanese investors and all the other JBIC and JICA and all the others are invited to participate. But two things I'll say about energy before I close. Energy of two kinds. First, there's energy for light. But we must also think about innovation for energy for cooking. Because today we have a situation where 1 billion people in Africa don't have energy for cooking. We lose 600,000 people. 300,000 women die every year for trying to cook a decent meal that we and I take for granted. They carry their babies on their back. 300,000 kids die every single year just trying to do that because of secondary effect of smoke. And so we need to make sure that as we think about energy, we are also thinking about clean cooking energy to allow women to have access to clean cooking solutions in Africa, to cook not only with decency, but also to preserve their health and make sure their kids can be alive to even eat the food that they're actually cooking. That's one part of it. The second part of it I want to say about energy has to do with the role of critical minerals. And as you know, Africa has the bulk of the minerals that the world needs. As I said in my opening address for this forum, that by 2030, that will be $7 trillion, both in terms of electric vehicles and in terms of battery energy storage systems. 2050 is going to be $59 trillion. So if you have platinum metals group, if you have copper, if you have nickel, if you have graphite, if you have all these things, you're not going to make money in Africa by exporting those minerals, because the door to poverty is the export of primary commodities, whether it's in agriculture or whether it's in minerals or metals. That's the door to poverty, and Africa is tired of being poor. But the highway to wealth is the development of value chains that allow you to move up and to be able to process and add value to that. And I hope in your conversations that you will focus on this particular issue, which is very, very important for Africa, not just to be a supplier of raw materials, again, for the global energy transitions, but to be a key player in value chains that makes that happen. As I close, let me thank you once again for participation from Japan. Thank you, the Kesai Doyukai, for organizing this with us. Thank you, JICA. Thank you, Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Foreign Affairs. What I see here is what myself and Executive Director Nomoto envisioned. We envisioned we're in a car in Tokyo, going to a meeting. And he and I were talking, and I said, Idi Nomoto, we need to create an ecosystem to support Japanese investment at scale in Africa. And so today, as you look across this room, you see that ecosystem. You see it in agriculture. You see it in energy. You see it in infrastructure. You see it in financial services. You see it in private equity funds and venture capital funds. And you also see it in terms of the political will of the government of Japan to support Africa. Next year, we will have the TICAD in Yokohama, which is going to be very, very important for us, and we will be there. And also, next year, we will have the EPSA 6 negotiation with the Ministry of Finance and with the government of Japan. Last time we did it, EPSA 5 was at $5 billion. I like 5 things. That's why we have the high fives at the bank. But I did tell Idi Nomoto and Minister Mimura that if we do high five on one hand, it has to be high fives on the other hand. So we've done 5. Maybe now for EPSA, next one maybe high 10 or something like that, maybe 5-5. Let's make sure that we raise our ambition to be able to support Africa at scale. Once again, thank you very much for coming. Thank you, and I wish you a very good dialogue today. Thank you, Mary.
Let's give it once again to Mr. President for his time. And ladies and gentlemen, because Mr. President has got a very busy schedule, he'll be leaving for another event, but we do thank him for sparing time to first come here and be with us. And may I invite now on stage, the moderator is going to carry us through the next session, Executive Director for Japan, Edie Nomoto-san. Welcome.
Hello. Okay, so thank you very much. So I'd like to now call the panelists to this session. So this is about agriculture, and firstly, I'd like to invite Richard from our FDB. So he's director in charge of private sector. And then, so it's him. And then also next, I also invite Miss Tada from Spaceshift. They're a startup company from Japan. And then I also want to invite Matsuno-san. He's also a startup operating in Kenya. And then next is Ishida-san from AIC. So he's a venture capital based in Kenya and several other places in Africa. And then I also invite Harada-san. He's from Green Carbon, and they are good at carbon credit development. And then lastly, I want to invite Wakabayashi-san from JICA. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for participating in this session. So basically, this session is aiming to share the kind of potential or the size and the kind of quality of potential collaboration between Japan and Africa. And actually, today, as you can see, most of the participants are startups and venture capital. But as the President mentioned, we have a kind of good ecosystem with also a large company. So, and the large companies actually also in this podium, in this hall. But now, firstly, I'd like to ask Richard to share your kind of impression and result in the mission to Japan. So actually, FDB agriculture team, there's two directors. He's in charge of private sector, and the other, Martin Fregen, is in charge of public sector. And then together with their managers and the team, they visited Japan this September. And then met with many Japanese companies to really explore the kind of possibility to collaborate with those companies for Africa's agricultural development. So firstly, I'd like to ask Richard to share your views about how did you feel about the potential.
Well, thank you, Edie, and thank you all for making up for this panel. I first just want to first start from the collaboration that we've had with Japan from an agribusiness perspective. I think it's important to put everything into context. I think from a JICA perspective, I'm going to start off from the institution level. From a JICA perspective, we actually worked with JICA in 2018 to finance the Ghana Cocoa Board 600 million facility. They were part of the syndicate, the Development Finance Institution syndicate that we executed with them on that particular facility. From a corporate finance perspective too, we've worked with Olam, which has Mitsubishi as part of the shareholding structure. We've executed since, I believe, in 2013, about $100 million worth of transactions from that particular perspective. We have also ETG, which has Mitsu, also as part of the shareholding structure. We've had a relationship with them since 2016, and to date, I think we've done about 300 million. The most recent transaction that we did about a month ago that was approved by a board of directors was a sustainability-linked loan for about 17 million. And I'm just giving context to the sort of opportunities that exist with Japanese companies, and then I'll now come back to the relationship that, the mission that we had with Japan. From a technical assistance perspective, we have what we call the Fund for African Private Sector Assistance. That's also a Japanese technical assistance fund within the bank that allows us to engage with the private sector from an ag business perspective. Since I'm covering agriculture and ag business perspective, FAPA provided $1 million for us to engage to set up the facility for African agricultural finance in Africa. It's a facility to engage the SME space. Then I think now I can now speak to the mission that we had in Japan. Very successful mission, which took us to Tokyo through to Osaka, where we met with very enterprising startup companies. We also met with a lot of large entities. And the key question that always came up was the opportunities on the continent. They always wanted to find out, the type of opportunities that we have on the continent that they would be able to engage in. And one other thing that I found really, really amazing about the Japan experience was the fact that they never talked about the perception of risk. Anytime that you speak to other opportunities outside of the continent, in Europe, in North America, etc., what you always hear is the perception of risk. But then one identifying feature that I really did not hear when we were in Japan and having the conversation with the Japanese entities was the perception of risk on the continent. And I believe in the open preliminary, the president actually showed a chart which showed the minimal or very low levels of default in African entities. The mission to Japan, we followed it up, ED, with various discussions. We are having a discussion with the Sasakawa Foundation and on SoftBank on digitally enabled agriculture, looking at more innovative ways of doing agriculture on the continent. There's also a program that we are working on with Myanmar. Myanmar is actually an agricultural company that's seeking to expand its operations in Africa. We are working with them on the regional program for rice development. This is a multinational project, and they are using that rice program as a conduit to expand their operations in Africa. And finally, I don't want to take too much of the time. Finally, we are also engaging with Itochu's chemical division in finding out and working with the bank to explore various ways for introducing cutting-edge controlled fertilizer into Africa. So what it means is that, look, from the perspective of the African Development Bank, Japan and Japanese companies present an exciting opportunity for us to engage, and definitely, as ED had promised, next year would also be going, and the collaboration that we're having with Japan would continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. So, as he mentioned, thank you very much, Richard. So, as you mentioned, there's a lot of possibilities, and there's a lot of players. So, he just mentioned several big companies and also startup company, but actually there's more big companies who is very interested and actually already operating in Africa. And now we go to the presentation from startup companies, but even this startup company, if we just only take agriculture, we have more Japanese startup company actually who already operates in Africa and also making profits as a business. So like this is very, how can I say, good to emphasize. So like firstly, like, let me invite Tada-san from Spaceshift. So they are using satellite technology. So like, could you present your operations?
Thank you very much. It's very great to honor to be here. And Spaceshift, okay. The Spaceshift is a space startup focused on developing analytics AI for satellite data. Our mission is to solve the social issues like food security or climate change by leveraging the power of space and AI. Space industry has experienced remarkable growth recently, and the utilization of the satellite data is no exception. The number of Earth observation satellites has been increasing recently, but the key to promoting the utilization of the satellite data is transforming this big data into valuable information. The Spaceshift doesn't have any hardware like a satellite itself, and a rocket, of course. And we are very focused on the software development. And we can provide unprecedented space-based insight through high, precise accuracy AI analytics technology. Spaceshift AI is already being applied for various industries like disaster management, urban development, and forest monitoring, and maritime security. But today, I would like to focus on the technology in agricultural sector. This year, we have just launched the pilot project in Nigeria to support microfinance services to the farmers. We aim to develop AI analytics for crop growth monitoring and the prediction of the harvest timing and volume by utilizing the satellite data. And also, we evaluate its the potential to enhance the credit scoring of farmers in financial services. Regarding business model, we are now collaborating with the local companies in Nigeria who already deliver the microfinance services or agricultural solution to the farmers. And the AI solution will integrate seamlessly into their solution, and our partner company expand their business in Nigeria, of course, the African countries. While the agriculture solution normally rely on the optical satellite, but this approach is very limited by the weather condition. On the other hand, the radar satellite, we can call the SAR satellite, which can penetrate the cloud and observe the target regardless the bad weather. So it can allow us to monitor the target continuously. So we use both the optical satellite and the radar satellite so that we can provide mainly three information. One is crop growth status, and the second is the prediction of harvest timing. And third is historical record of the past farming activity. So to utilize this technology, it can allow the small-scale farmers to access more the financial services by their objective credit scoring to purchase the agriculture machineries or fertilizers. And also, we will try to provide information about harvest timing or volume to food company or trading company and agricultural stakeholders, contributing to the reduction of the GHG emission and food loss, as well as to effective marketing. So future business in Africa, I would like to highlight other advanced technology beyond the agriculture. So the satellite data can cover the wide area at once. So our change detection AI can monitor the urban development. And time series satellite data can analyze changes in the cities, detecting new building areas, vacant lots, and inactive farmland widely. In addition, we just newly developed generative AI, and the user can ask questions or make requests to analyze the target of interest using satellite data. For example, what's is the total amount of the harvest crop this year. And the AI quickly respond to the answer in text basis. So still, it's very challenging for the end users to utilize or understand the satellite data, but hopefully our generative AI support and simplify this process and make the utilization of satellite data more effective. In conclusion, SpaceShift seeks the partner company to jointly expand effort in digitalization across Africa. Especially, we're looking for the partner who already deliver the solution or application to the farmers or agricultural stakeholders. And as I introduced, we are very focused on the software development. So IT companies, SaaS company, or the SIS company will be very welcome to be collaborate and integrate our services to their solutions. Finally, this year, SpaceShift just launched business co-creation program called Satelabo to expand the satellite business with the combination of satellite data and ground data. So please join us if you are interested in as a business partner of the Satelabo and expand the utilization of the satellite market and of course accelerate digitalization across the Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tada-san. So definitely, I think this AIF is a kind of best place to look for your partner. So like, I really appreciate you participate. And if any participant are really interested about how it works, like, just to get a chat after this. And then like here, before going to Ishida-san about the venture capital, like I also would like to appoint Umitoro. So Umitoro is actually also another Japanese type company like who is focusing on aquaculture. They are also utilizing this kind of satellite technology. And also like last year, solar technology, which is using a drone for reducing malaria or agriculture, has also joined. So like we also have those kind of range of companies. So now let's go for the Ishida-san's presentation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hiroki, the director of AAIC. I'm based out of Kenya. And thank you very much for giving me this valuable opportunity to make a presentation about what we are doing today. First, let me introduce about AIC. We provide mainly three businesses. Number one, investment, also consulting, and HR, managing talents. And today, we're going to talk about investment. And in Africa, we manage the venture capital focus on the healthcare sector. But today, our session is more like agriculture. So let me talk about more direct investment in agriculture ventures in Rwanda and Tanzania. Actually, AIC, we started this business in Africa even before raising the fund. And we have offices in Africa. In Kenya, I established the first office in Africa in 2015. After that, expand to other countries. AIC, we manage our agriculture business through this company, OSTI. They set up a first business in Rwanda, which raised the macadamia nuts in 2012. After that, last year, they expanded to Tanzania, where they grow coffee beans. Also, they have offices in Japan, which has more like sales function because also we are targeting sales the coffee beans, also nuts in Japan. OSTI, they have a range of variety of value chain. They start from cultivation, then also processing and sales. So they cover the whole value chain and then including on the farm in Rwanda and Tanzania. In Tanzania, the farmland exceeds 1,700 hectares. Then we have this concept, smart village project. So, of course, which utilizing the digital technologies to realize sustainable growth in rural areas. In farming, we utilize that technology tools to improve the cultivation. But beyond that, there are quite a number of stakeholders in that farm. There are thousand villagers nearby. that farm. So also we provide sustainable solutions for those villagers, including like water, energy, healthcare, also educations. Then one of the uniqueness what we are doing is collaboration with the Japanese companies, one corporate and one startup company. Toppan, I'm sure so all Japanese are familiar with this company. They are well known for printing company, but they shifted to more digital and ICT companies. And then they started provide IoT solutions to this farm. Also, they have some project, for example, in Ethiopia, they issue their ID for Ethiopian citizens, but not only just issuing, also digitalization is a key of the project. And then this is their first agriculture project in Africa. And sadly, a startup company, also they offer satellite solutions which analyze how optimize the crop management, including the distribution of fertilizer. And then OSTI as well as AIC, our role is to provide a kind of the platform for those companies to do some trial in this using this farm. The farm is not big enough for Toppan, but using these opportunities, they can do more business outside of maybe Tanzania or in this continent. Also, I'd like to invite more even the Japanese companies to do more projects. Also, of course, not limited to Japanese companies, and happy to have more partnership with people in this room. And then about the technology briefly. So you can find a very traditional way to analyze the soil conditions. But the challenge is more like manual, time-consuming, and also they cover the very limited points. But using satellite data, it can be more accurate and comprehensive, and then cover the whole areas to improve the cultivation. Yeah, that's the end of my presentation about agriculture. But just 1 minute briefly about our also fund management activities in the healthcare sector. And just one example, what I want to say is also digitalization is the key in other sectors, including healthcare sector. So Bima is a good example. They started a business in Ghana and also went to Tanzania. And then now they have providing the digital insurance and also services to 7 million customers across the world. And then their pricing range is $2 to $5 per month. The question is, can it be sustainable? And yes, it's sustainable, also profitable business. The reason they made it possible is technologies. They kind of make mandate to use a teleconsultation at the beginning so that they can reduce the insurance payment dramatically. Also utilize their mobile money for the collection of the premium. So I believe the power of the digitalization is quite strong in any sectors, including agriculture and healthcare. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ishita-san. So definitely AIC is very unique in the sense that you have two phases, as like venture capital and as well as implementable agriculture itself by yourself. And then like as you can see, actually there's several venture capitals who focusing on Africa, like by Japanese, and then like they definitely have a kind of function to connect those kind of stuff, not only Japanese startup, but the local startups in Africa to the Japanese big companies. So there is also one value added they can bring it to Africa. So now let's go to Harada-san from Green Carbon. So definitely carbon credit is very crucial to increase the income of farmers. So like let's hear from him. So Harada-san, please.
Konnichiwa. Thanks so much for having today. My name is Ryo Harada from Green Carbon. Let me introduce our company overview. Green Carbon is a carbon credit developer. So we generate a carbon credit and sell them to the companies. There are so many kinds of carbon credit, but we focus on nature-based. So our project on the right side, we are doing biochar, livestock, R&D, carbon farming, mangrove, and AWD. AWD means alternate wetting and dry. It is a methane gas reduction from paddy fields. As you imagine that in paddy fields, it is always flooded, but in fact, it is not good for environment. There is so much methane gas emission from there. But all you have to do is to stop water, drain water, and make it dry out for a week once, so you can reduce the methane gas emission by 30% to 50%. It is very simple, it is very easy, and you can generate the carbon credit. That is one of the examples of our project. Our main business area is now Southeast Asian countries, but we'd like to expand here in Africa because we believe that Africa has a significant potential. So we are trying to do the pilot project in Africa. Can you skip? And let me explain our business model. We are a developer, so we design the whole project. And before starting the project, we will find a sponsor and buyer of the carbon credit. So you don't have to worry about unsold credit. And our business can be divided two parts. One is generating carbon credit. And second is sell them to the companies. So we are carbon credit experts. So we collaborate with local communities, and we will do the free consultation and financial and technical support. So we teach them, we train them how to generate a carbon credit. So for the farmers, they don't have to pay anything, and they don't have to change agricultural practices. So after selling carbon credit, we can share the profit to the farmers. And now, we have many pipelines, and the average selling price is 20 million US dollar. So there are so many Japanese companies who really want to buy carbon credit, especially JCM partner countries. So there are many challenges for this business. The biggest one is greenwash. It is often said, it is often criticized as a greenwash. So transparency and reliability are really important. And second, operation and application is really manual. So it takes a lot of time and cost. To solve these problems, we have our own service called AgLean. So it simplifies the whole process. And yeah, for example, to generate a carbon credit, you have to find a suitable location, and you have to apply and register and do monitoring, and you have to sell it. But if you use this our project service, it very make it clear and simple. And also, now we are collaborating with JAXA. So using satellite data and put our service, we are developing the new services. And this is like a matching service. So you can find the supplier of the carbon credit, and also you can find the supplier of the carbon credit. So the transition scale is not small. We think the government also uses our service, and the scale is like 10 million US dollar or 20 million US dollar take place here. Okay, finally, again, we strongly believe that Africa has a huge potential, and we have a know-how of carbon credit. So we are looking for the local partner for implementation, and also we are looking for the investors for the project. For example, if you are like connected many farmers, like rice paddy fields, and or if you are still already doing the reforestation, but if you don't know how to generate the carbon credit, we can help it. And also, we can help to sell carbon credit. Okay, that is the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, thank you very much, Harada-san. Definitely, carbon credit will be a very crucial part of agricultural development in Africa. So, let me ask a question more in the panel discussion, following panel discussion. So, let's now go to the Matsuno-san. And Matsuno-san is very, as President mentioned, it's very related about the digitalization. So, so could you do the presentation, please?
Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Koya Matsuno, one of the co-founders from VunaPay. Before I begin, I want you to imagine this. You worked very hard for a month, and your boss tells you that you're not going to get paid for another 6 months. Would you stay for that job? Probably not, yeah? But that's exactly what's going on to the smallholder farmers in Kenya, and in fact, beyond. This coffee farmer in Kiambu, Kenya, she delivers her coffee to cooperatives, like most of the farmers. But she doesn't get paid for 6 months after she delivers her coffee. But she still needs to cover her daily expenses, pay for her kids' tuition. So what does she do? She sells her coffee to a middleman for 40 to 80% below the market value, just to access instant cash. This is why we created VunaPay, a digital platform that facilitates instant payment to smallholder farmers as they deliver their produce. And here's how it works. So first of all, we digitize these agricultural cooperatives, and as the farmer delivers the coffee or any kind of produce, our platform VunaPay will record that on our platform. This allows us to then track everything in real time, and then this real-time data is shared to our financial partners. And based on these data, the financial partners could then advance and pay instant payment to the farmers as they deliver their produce. Now, once the cooperatives sell these produce to the market, that's when we collect the money at source. So the farmers don't need to worry about repaying or worry about interest. What we do is to expedite these payments to the farmers. Now, there's approximately 54,000 cooperatives across Africa, and then each one of them has 500 to 10,000 farmers. This gives us 27 million farmers that we can help, and this is a conservative estimate. And so far, we have a wait list of 120,000 farmers and 24,000 farmers registered and actively using the platform. We've also partnered up with local commercial bank, Tier 1 commercial bank in Kenya, as well as with a government fund that focuses on empowering the agricultural sector to expand an instant payment service. And we also focus on generating tangible impact. One of the things that we focus on is business growth to the farmers as well as the cooperatives by not only accessing the instant payment, but to access any additional financial service from asset financing, etc. We also make sure a lot of these farmers that we have are female farmers that manages the daily expenses, and we make sure that they have financial controls over their money. And this also enables them to invest and allocate proper money to education. And lastly, we are trying to bring back youth to agri sector. A lot of them now choose to become an Uber driver, etc., just because they could get paid on a weekly basis. But what we're doing that even with the agri sector, you can get paid as you deliver the produce. And we believe that this would bring back the youth back into agriculture. Lastly, before I wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about our team as well. Our CEO, Judy, she comes from an agricultural family as well. She worked at a telecom company and expanded across Africa. Myself, Koya Matsuno, I come more from the finance background, but also started a crowd lending platform. And lastly, Ian Wambai, our CTO, he has over 10 years of experience in software engineering and also have worked in various agricultural projects. And what I want to emphasize today is that with us working hand in hand with these financial institutions, we believe that we could empower these smallholder farmers as we grow. So today I also want to connect and also discuss possible solutions with every single one of you to promote and harvest a better future together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matsuno-san. So I think this is very innovative, but also very straightforward business. So reducing the inefficiency in the value chain and then increase the income of the farmer. So very significant. So now let me turn to the last presentation that is by JICA. So everybody knows JICA, and probably you have an image around they are doing only sovereign operations, but actually they also do the private sector operations. So he's in charge of a private sector operation in JICA. So could you start the presentation?
Okay, hello, good afternoon everybody. My name is Jin Wakabayashi. I'm from Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, and I am overseeing the JICA's private sector financing window. Excuse me. As you've just heard from the prominent young venture corporations from Japan in the agri space, trying to solve the developmental issues through business activities in Africa. Our agency is on the financing side, particularly as a development financial institution. So JICA, in a nutshell, is Japan's bilateral aid agency. And we administer ODA programs from technical cooperation, grants, sovereign loans, but I oversee the private sector window, which is called the private sector investment finance. Okay. We provide debt finance and also equity finance across the globe. For our debt operations, we highlight the three important sectors. One is climate change. The second one is food security and agriculture. And third one is facilitating financial inclusion. Although we have three pillars, it does not mean that all these issues are not intertwined. Particularly today's theme of agriculture, we believe that it has to be tackled in a multi-sectoral way, particularly in terms of climate change. We have to integrate not just as an agricultural development issue, but also as a water or environmental issues, climate change issues, and also to integrate the innovative technologies, particularly from the private sector. JICA has various initiatives involving agricultural development, just to show that we are strongly involved in the rice development, food and nutrition security, and also smallholder horticultural empowerment and promotion. Just to give some examples of how JICA's private financing window is operating, particularly in Africa. One example is our corporate finance support to ETG, which is a co-financing with AIF24. We are supporting through this type of finance, but also the interesting point is that we are also extending technical cooperation as a grant. So it is kind of a blended finance scheme uniquely coordinated for this private sector endeavor. On the right-hand side is our credit line to Axis Bank in Nigeria, and the targeted areas of intervention is climate change and agriculture and also infrastructure within Nigeria. Why we do this? It is because the to fill the gap of finance in developing countries, the long-term financing is extremely crucial. So we are partnering with domestic financial institutions in order to support these areas. Okay. Just like these venture companies here, although we are not directly financing or supporting them yet, we have various examples of supporting through fund investment and also through direct investment into these venture corporations or funds which support venture corporations in the areas of various spaces, including agriculture. Oops. Yes, and I also want to highlight that as part of the DFI community, JICA thinks it is very important not just to extend financial support, but also to create an ecosystem which will enable private businesses to be connected more into the space of African agricultural development. So these are the type of activities which JICA is conducting. For example, we are promoting collaboration between entrepreneurs in African continent and Japanese companies. Also, we are supporting collaboration with the Japanese private sector, which have advanced technologies and products. So, in closing, I would just like to highlight 3 points of how our private sector intervention works or trying to work in Africa. In order to enhance agriculture and green growth, building resilient agricultural food systems that adapt to climate change while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions is critical. And through providing catalytic capital to maximize mobilization of private capital is essential. We want to enhance new collaboration with local and global companies, startups, including Japanese, who are involved in contributing to these endeavors, particularly climate-resilient agriculture, food security, with innovative technologies like these companies here. Also, local financial institutions that contribute to enhancing financial access and inclusion, including women, rural communities, and vulnerable people. Lastly, our aim is to maximize development impact. So we want to effectively mobilize our internal schemes together with private sector to co-create and work together in order to enhance collaboration in this field. So thank you very much.
So, thank you very much, Wakabayashi-san. So this is the end of presentation. So now let me move to the panel discussion part. Now let me invite one more panelist, so, which is Vice President of African Development Bank, Bess Danforth. So please come to the stage. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you very much. So like now we hear the kind of, from Richard, we got the kind of overview around the players in Japan, and now we have here like many startup company venture capital. So let me firstly cast a question to Harada-san. So like you mentioned about the potential of carbon credit to benefit Africa's farmer, particularly to enhance income. And then you listed, say, like several tools, including biochar and other tools. So like, and I think depending on the commodity or like product, I don't know, commodity, say that how difficult challenges to really get the income increase can be different. So like, what type of carbon credit should Africa target? What kind of carbon credit is really, how can I say, beneficial to increase the income of farmers?
Thanks so much. Yeah, as he said earlier, there are many types of carbon credit, and yeah, actually, we are still exploring which category has much potential. But basically, I think any category has a potential. But just now, AWD project is very easy way, and also we have many many companies really want to buy carbon credit. Actually, we receive many inquiries almost every week, or so. If we can generate a carbon credit through the AWD project, it is very easy to sell. All we have to do is just generate a carbon credit, especially in JCM scheme partner countries like Kenya, Tunisia, Ethiopia, and Senegal. If we find a local partner, we can do it quickly just now.
Yeah, that's really good to know. That actually, like after I coming out to FDB, I'm really, how can I say, encouraging the kind of together with the team, say like to really got a kind of very good successful case where like farmers really can get their income from carbon credit, and then like, it's very encouraging. So yeah, thank you very much. So next, let me ask to Tada-san, it's a similar question. So like you mentioned about the satellite technologies, and then like you also listed not only about agriculture but also other areas. So like in terms of satellites, so like how you can really, how can I say, use well for the Africa's development? Which you say do you really see the potential or benefit for Africa's development?
Thank you. I think Africa is well suited and highly compatible with the satellite data, because the satellite data is especially good at capturing the big trend across a wide area. And you know that Africa is a very huge continent, and it seems to be like one of the global leaders in using the data-driven services, especially through the mobile technology. So I think the answer is the various industries, but I think for example, the carbon credit, of course, and agriculture, and also deforestation area monitoring, and the construction monitoring as well. So it's very expected to be applied for various industries across the Africa.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So now actually let me turn to Matsuno-san. So Matsuno-san, I think your business is very straightforward, as I said, and like essential things for it, but actually it's all for the startup company, but to grow more. So like what is needed for you to really expand the business and increase the farmers who can benefit from the service? And also like, if you find say, like any roles for MDBs, including FDB, like could you just refer to it?
Yeah, thank you. I would say there's two key areas for us to really scale effectively. One is just to make sure that the infrastructure is there as well. One of the main things that we do is digitizing the cooperatives, but if we don't have stable electricity or internet or for the cooperatives to access these devices, it limits our growth. So by working closely with NGOs or other organizations that provides those assets, that's one thing. The second thing is more to do with closely working with financial partners. As I mentioned earlier as well, in order for us to scale these instant payment solution, we choose to work closely, not just local financiers, but global financiers, to make sure that these money that is allocated to the fund is reaching the beneficiary, which are farmers, and we can be there to become the last mile payment service provider for that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. So like, I think this AIF also help in that sense. And then next, let me turn to Ishita-san. So like, Ishita-san, you have a face, as I said, like as a agricultural producer, but also as a venture capital. So I want to ask a question to the side of venture capital. So if you see the kind of ecosystem around the startups in Africa, so definitely your venture capital can help them grow to some extent. I don't know, sales of, I don't know, several million, 10 million. And then, but they have to grow more. So like, if you see the kind of, what is the kind of missing, or like what is needed more for the Africans ecosystem startup to, how can I say, to really grow more?
Thank you for that question. So there are several challenges, but one of them is there are a bit limited number of like deals that's significantly like large enough to talk to the investors who invest in the very later stage companies. And two ways. And number one, just they decrease the ticket size so that also they can put some money with earlier stage companies. And then already some effort is being made. For example, like IFC, they have a like venture capital division, so that also they can nurture the a bit earlier stage company to grow, so that also the other department also can invest like larger ticket size, like 10 or 20 million US dollars. And the other side is, suppose a company grow faster, but it's not easy task. However, recently we observe more like acquisition among startup companies. Maybe as you may know, so recently the market situation is not very optimistic, which was like in 3 years ago. But also I believe that we can do more acquisition, so that one company might be too small, but 2 or 3 companies combined can be ready to talk to the large ticket size companies. And also as AIC, we focus on more like healthcare startup companies. So among those, there are a lot of companies working on some, like, let's say DOT, like pharmaceutical delivery. Also another one is providing telemedicine services. But connecting DOT is quite critical in this continent. For example, like US, Japan, maybe DOT is still okay because the market is quite sizable, and then they can expand in that space. But Africa, also to have some scale, connecting DOT is, I believe, critical. So I believe so as investors, we should play some significant role to also initiate that kind of movement forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very insightful. So now, like, let me ask Wakabayashi-san from JICA. So simple question. So as Richard mentioned, so JICA and FDB is a kind of long-time partner on the sovereign side, but you are from the private sector side. Say, like, are you really willing to work with FDB on the private sector side, and how? yeah, continue to be on the sovereign side, but also on the private sector side. How do you see?
Thank you very much. Of course, we are very much willing and ready to work with AFDB, but and already I've just mentioned one example, our corporate finance to ETG, but there are various platforms that AFDB has, which we can join in, and we can also collaborate in various ways in various financial instruments. But also, I believe that there are many regional financial institutions looking for African continent as backed with this forum. So working closely together with the leadership of AFDB is also crucial for us to, by expanding these networks, we can also introduce Japanese companies into the market much better. That's what I believe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So as you mentioned, we can definitely work on those kind of specific projects, also networking. Also, since your presentation also included the support about the ecosystem of entrepreneurship, so like I think we have a lot of base to work together for the ecosystem between Japan and Africa, but mainly for the African development. So now let me turn to Bess. So this is a kind of overlap, wrap-up question of this panel discussion. So when you see those presentations, and how do you see the importance of those startups and venture capital for the Africa's agricultural development, and also say like how FDB can work with those players. And then, like, if you have some kind of advice to them for them to grow more, like, that is very much appreciated.
Well, thank you very much, Idinomoto, and good afternoon. It's just so exciting to be here on the stage with all of these brilliant minds leading these very innovative startups. And you know what I'm hearing again and again and again today in our conversations this week is these are just really, really innovative, important technologies that are addressing a real gap and a real need for agriculture on the continent. And so just, you know, how well they're designed to fill something that we've been talking about forever, whether it be, you know, how do we really access carbon credits, whether it be digitization, whether it be, you know, new types of fertilizer. I mean, that list goes on and on. So everything that you're doing here, using AI more effectively, these technologies are needed, and I'm so excited to see you getting them going on the continent. And the issue that we have is that there are so many pilots ongoing in Africa, but we need pilots to try things out, but we need things at scale, right? We need to transform Africa's agriculture at scale. We know that Africa has the capacity to feed itself. We know that Africa has the capacity to be the breadbasket for the world. So how do we make that happen? And so we at the African Development Bank, you know, we're a bank. So that means we loan money, we do debt, and we do equity. And so, you know, that's one way we support. Often our, you know, loan sizes and our equity sizes are bigger than some of startups need. And so there are, you know, we do have some funds and pockets of money that we can access. And you heard from Richard already, and Richard's the expert at all of this, our director for agricultural finance. But, you know, we do have different, you know, SME funds, et cetera, that we can help access. But I think it's really important that, you know, money is one thing. You all spoke about needing investors, and, you know, we're happy to see if we can be creative within sort of, you know, the large-scale MDB that we are to see how we can help. But also, you know, we do huge sovereign investments as well, and a lot of those sovereign loans have, you know, innovation funds within them. And, you know, can we help link up some of our sovereign loans to some of the work that you're doing? We also, you know, we've reached 25 million farmers with innovative and improved technologies. And so that's a huge reach. And so how do we help connect you all with the markets that we're working at through some of our private sector programs and through some of our national sovereign value chain programs? And I know that's something that, you know, I know that Richard Oforimonte, Director for Agricultural Finance, together with Dr. Martin Fregeni, our Director of Agriculture and Agro-Industry, both went to Japan. I was there, you know, several months even before that, to really look at, you know, how can we take these technologies coming out of your amazing startup companies and really connect them to the markets. And, you know, you saw there's results coming out of that. So I think that we just have to be creative, but often it means, you know, getting together, sort of opening the books on all the different, you know, tools that we have together and all the technologies that you all have and seeing where we can best leverage them. But again, you know, just really thank you, Idinomoto, for really helping to continue to push this, because as we have to find the right ways we can fit this together so we can take these technologies to scale, because African agriculture needs them.
Thank you very much. That's very good remarks, and definitely like we really work together. But let me also can get Richard to get his view about the presentation.
Well, thank you, Idinomoto, and I think, look, this is an excellent presentation. I mean, the breadth of opportunities that we see on the stage, from access to finance using the space shift. I think it's definitely an important use of technology to be able to assist, you know, our smallholder farmers in accessing finance, especially through the credit score mechanism, which definitely does not exist in most places. And of course, for input supply, very, very, very important from that particular perspective. We also heard from OSTI group in terms of the using the analysis of soil conditions, etc. And I believe this is also a very important sort of context that we can utilize. He also talked about digital insurance with what? Digital healthcare. And I think Beth runs that sector too, and I think that's also an opportunity for us to definitely look into. One interesting one that you also mentioned on the carbon credits perspective. I just came out of another boardroom where the opportunity is in the palm oil sector. When you talk about deforestation, taking out a lot of the forest that comes up with the carbon, reforestation, et cetera, these are areas that we need to look at very critically. We've seen investments where the project sponsor is looking to us to use some of his carbon credits as part of his revenue stream, but we've never found ways to be able to utilize that. So I think these are very, very important sort of opportunities that we can, of course, piggyback on, work with your teams to see how best we can incorporate them into some of the opportunities and projects that we look at.
Thank you very much. So now actually we now have to close this session. So just to final word from me is that I hope that this session can really convey the kind of clearer image about how Japan and Africa can work together on this agricultural development, and also not limiting to Japan, say how we can utilize those kind of startup company for agricultural development is the ones also by African local people is very crucial for the development institution to really maximize the impact, development impact. So I hope that this session can also, how can I say, facilitate the thinking around it. So thank you very much. And then now probably I need to turn to the Shibusawa-san for the session. So it's supposed to have a kind of break, but because of the time, probably I suggest directly go to the sessions to the energy. So but thank you very much. I'd like to close this session itself. Thank you very much.
Just hold on, the panel and the moderator. There's a family photo you need to take around there, please, if you don't mind. You may want to remove your tags if you don't mind, or you can have it. It looks good on you, fine. Yeah, excellent. That's right. Okay, thank you so much. And once again, let's give it to Edie Nomoto-san and our panel. Very, very well done. And what we'll do is that we are going to change the name tags here very quickly. And as they do that, let me just summarize a few points there. I can see they're moving that very quickly. We've heard from a very rich panel. We had, of course, Richard Oforimante telling us about his experience in Japan. If I may just say, we settle down so that we go to the next session as they're changing the names. And I think they already changed, actually. We've heard about those experiences, and of course, we had very exciting trip to the space as well. I think the names are now changed. Am I right? The names have changed? Let's see. Excellent. That was efficient. Let me welcome on the stage Mr. Ken Shibusawa-san, please. Let's give a round of applause to Ken Shibusawa, please. Let's give a round of applause to him, please. Ken Shibusawa, please. And he will call on the stage his panel. They're going to look into green growth. Thank you so much.
I don't think so. Hello.
Yeah,
Okay,
there
this
you go.
works. Okay, hello everybody. I thought I was going to get a bathroom break, but I guess not. So I'll have to grin and bear it. Thank you very much for hanging around for this energy session. My name is Ken Shibusawa, and I am the one of the co-chairs for the Middle East Africa Committee at Keizai Doyukai, which is a Japan Association of Corporate Executives. I wear many other hats, but it's too many, so I'll just cut it short. But let me invite my panelists onto the stage, if it's okay. Mr. Takuma Terakubo, please. Mr. Bekim Tahiri, welcome. Mr. Junaid Bello Osaji, I think I messed that up, sorry about that. Miss Yuri Uchida, and finally Mr. Yuichiro Akita. Welcome. So, President Adesina introduced me as the great-great-grandson of my Shibusawa Eiichi 150 years ago. That's when he started the first bank in Japan. But if you think about it, 150 years ago, Japan was an emerging country. We didn't have much natural resources like the African continent, but we had lots of people back then. So I think Japan was able to engage on the human capital for development of the country to join one of the advanced nations. So you need human capital for advancement. Obviously, you need financial capital for development of a country. And finally, you need energy, which is a topic of our discussion. Of course, energy back in the era when Japan was an emerging country, we could just burn coal. But obviously, we can't be doing that. So that's a no-no. But on the other hand, though, we have this new innovation called sustainable energy. And with that, though, something that didn't exist 150 years ago is digital technology as well. So this session will be based on energy and digital technology. And for that panel, we have a venture capitalist, we have a technology large conglomerate, we have a major financial institution, we have a government institution that basically is covering the minerals and energy, and finally, a governmental organization that basically is export and investment insurance. And so we have an all-star team. I'm going to ask every one of you to make a presentation, and I've been told it's 7 minutes each. We're a Japanese panel, so we have to be exactly on time. And I think there's somebody with a timekeeper right there in front of you, so keep that in mind. So let's start out with Terakubo-san. Oh, we have.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Takuma. I'm CEO and General Partner of Anchor Fund. So Anchor Fund is a Japanese venture capital focused on African startups. So today I'd like to speak what we did in past 4 years in Africa and also what we're gonna next. So yeah, so Anchor Fund is a Japan and Africa mixed fund, and we are backed by Japanese big corporate. They want to create some business in African continent. Also, they want to make collaboration between the local startups. So in past 4 years, we have invested 30 startups in Africa, which is related the financial technologies, some distribution, including logistics, mobility, and climate tech. So this 4 sector is the big focus of our fund. Let me introduce some of the corporate we're supporting right now. One is the financial technology startups. For example, like the company called PiggyVest. They are providing the saving platform in Nigeria. They're supporting the more than 6 million people to save their money. And then the other startups, related to health tech as well, like some focus on the drug distribution, and also some recycling technology startup as well. And then we also focus on some logistics startup. They providing like the first mile logistics and then last mile logistics as well. Oh, yeah. So our fund is as I said, yeah, our fund is mainly backed by Japanese corporate. We collaborate with Japanese corporate Honda. We set up a new company in Kenya. Actually, it was 4 years ago, I think. So we're doing asset finance business in Kenya because Honda asked me that the market share in Africa is still small. So we think together how we can increase the market share in Africa. And then we start the finance business for the Uber driver or some, some border riders. So our impact we made, we invested 30 startups currently, and then we made more than 3,000 jobs in Africa, and the portfolio raised more than, so last week, this week, the company raised 50 million, so now it's more than 500 million the startup raised after we invested. And then we are targeting to create more than 100 million jobs in Africa, so we are keep going our activity in Africa. So recently, we create a new fund. So this is our new actions. So we collaborate with a company called Manex Ventures, which is one of the big financial institutions in Japan. They have a online security trading business, asset management, and crypto exchange in Japan. We set up a new fund together 3 months ago, actually. And then, so we focus on 2 things. One is supporting startups to achieve the economic growth. And second thing is to achieve the carbon neutral in Africa. So we launched a new fund, so supporting the African startup, and then with Japanese innovators. Means the Japanese corporate has a lot of technologies, some assets, so not like just money. They provide a lot of assets, some great things for African startups. Also, we create the carbon neutral with startup. So. Let me explain about some startup again, which is focused on more like climate tech sector. One is a company called Sun Culture. They're operating in Kenya, so they provide solar irrigation to small farmers. So, most of so they provide the solar panel and then some pumps, some battery, and then farmer develop more, increase their farming. So once the farmer integrates their solar irrigation, the farmer income achieve more than 5 times right now. It's average. So it's a huge impact. And also, they reduce the saving the 2.9 tons per solar irrigation a year. So this is also they're creating the carbon credit with farmers and then sell it to some big corporate all over the world now. So the second case, which is called Arkwright, they're doing electric vehicle in Kenya as well. So the business is providing electric vehicle for border riders, but the main business is providing the battery service. So they have more than 100 battery stations in Nairobi City now, and then the rider is switching gasoline to the electricity right now. So they're creating this kind of infrastructure. Recently, they collaborate with Uber. So now they have more than 1,500 vehicles in Kenya now, but with Uber, they achieved to more than 5,000 end of next year. So we're supporting this kind of startup, and then also we provide some finance, some the technology from Japan to the startup, and then supporting to transform the African the net zero. So thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation.
Thanks very much, Terakubo-san. I understand you're in the earlier stage of investing in venture capital, and I'm wondering, in your climate tech companies' portfolios, how do you source your companies?
The sourcing.
Sourcing, yes.
So many is three things. One is we asked some, the startup, the local startup, do you know this kind of startup related to climate tech? And then the people introduce us a lot. And the second thing is other investors from all over the world introducing us. And the last thing is we have some research by ourselves, and and find out some great company. Mm-hmm. So that is the way.
Okay, so that research means you're on the ground searching, obviously, for searching for companies.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so let's go from venture capital to a large technology conglomerate. Mr. Tehio, please.
Okay, thank you everyone, and it's an honor also to be here in this wonderful investment forum, where we as Hitachi Energy could introduce the company, but also the solutions, products, and actual projects that we are working on. Yeah. Okay, so Hitachi Energy, its purpose is to advance in a way that sustainable energy could be accessible to anyone. So what we are working on is to put the energy transition to a carbon neutral and accessible to all people globally. So this is our purpose as Hitachi Energy, to contribute globally to the society so that we can have that for the future and future generations. What we are trying to do with that, for the future for all, is we are advancing in this system and to make it more flexible and secure, so that the power supply is generated, but also granted to all independently where they are. We as a technology leader are collaborating, and this is a fundamental piece with customer. The unprecedented growth that is at the moment going over this energy sector will lead sooner or later into collaboration with selected partners, so that you can generate projects, but also put them in place at the moment when this is planned without having any delay. So therefore, we are trying to be a partner to elaborate together with end users, with financing institutes, so that the solutions can interconnect rural areas or countries and continents in some cases. What we are doing is we are delivering reliable power supply to cities or to rural areas. So what we are trying to do is to manage this complexity. To give you a little bit an overview of Hitachi Energy. We as Hitachi Energy are, the brand name is very new, so we as Hitachi Energy exist only since 2021. We were integrated into the Hitachi Group in 21, yeah, and this is at the moment being established, but coming into Hitachi Energy, we are at the moment 445,000 employees. What we do, and this is our global footprint, we are active in more than 90 countries. We do have combined with Hitachi Energy and our prior owner, ABB, more than 250 years of heritage. We have different engineers globally acting, and we have different research and development centers globally that are interconnected to each other. We are divided in 4 business units. This is grid automation. We have high voltage products, grid integration, and transformers. We are focusing on customers in infrastructure, industry, and utilities. Our offering is coming from products to systems, software and automation and services. As indicated, we are globally active, so we have a share in Asia, Middle East and Africa, in Europe and the Americas. One of the major aspects that we are as Hitachi Energy seeking is the health, safety, and integrity. So what we are elaborating is to have a positive environment of health and well-being. We are contributing with the products and solutions to protect the environment, but also to minimize whatever we are contributing to it. We do have a major growth as Hitachi Energy at the moment because our sector is seeing an unprecedented growth. As you can imagine, in order to implement projects for infrastructures, which took place before the pandemic, could be plannable at the moment due to the high demand. We have that in Europe, in the Americas, and we see it also in other regions coming up, especially here in Africa, that it's mandatory to have like partnerships to secure the supply of products and solutions so that they are right on time when they are needed in order to have the expansion of the grid running, to have that benefit of this grid, because the electrical grid will be the backbone of the complete growth that is possible without the energy that is being transmitted from power plants to the consumers, and that this will increase further. So we see the growth in Europe, in other regions as well. Yeah. And that's why with business models, with products, with innovative solutions, with new talents, and all of them we are trying to implement that with frameworks and with sustainable products and solutions. We are divided in 4 business units: grid automation, integration, high voltage products, and transformers. We are a leader in all of them, and we have as a pioneering leader the HVDC technology, which is more than 70 years now in place. And we as Hitachi Energy with the heritage are global leader with this technology. And this is one of the pillars that we can provide. Important to indicate that we are, as a provider of products and solutions, trying to support you during the planning, during build, and also operate and maintain. So we can support you during the whole chain. And as you see, we were transitioning from 2021. We are strengthening it at the moment. And we are facing, or we are aiming, seeking to have acceleration in the next years. We are covering also in Africa different countries. Here in this map you see the northern part is not part of the cluster that is handled by the South African unit, but is also part of Hitachi Energy. And we are active in all the countries. As a product supplier, we are able to submit products, but also solutions, and secure the delivery on time. Maybe to give you just a bit of an idea of where we are acting so far. In Africa, we are having projects. I just selected a couple of them, where we are implementing power supply of renewable resources, implementation of railway connections. We are distributing power to rural areas, electrification of remote areas, and we are also participating in transmitting these power generation to the urban areas. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dave Bacon. Just a quick follow-up from my side is, you know, you're an energy company. Also, Hitachi is known for its digital technology. And if you have sustainable energy in your power grid, there's fluctuations, so there's problems with base load and things like this. And so how does the digital part play into your, you know, supplying energy, especially in the African context?
We are having projects that are remote, and they need to have accessibility. You need to know what is ongoing in those stations that we are building up. And without the digitalization, having access through telecommunication systems that you can really see what is happening at the moment in that station is fundamental. And we are working for that, to have that digitalized, to have all the information visible on a remote center, so that you can predict also if there is a failure or if there is any issue on the station that you could interact. Because as you can imagine, these stations that we are building, they are fundamental to maintain regions on the power supply. And without that, yeah, they could lead into a power off power, yeah, so that you would have a shutdown in a certain region. And that's why the digitalization is a fundamental piece for the sector that we are working in as Hitachi Energy in all aspects, so that you have access to the tools with telecommunication systems.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's let Junaid take the stage. Thanks.
Shibusawa-san, thank you very much. And warm appreciation to the African Development Bank for once again putting together an outstanding summit. To my Japanese colleagues, I say domo arigatou gozaimasu. I'm conscious of time, so I'll be very brief. I've been told to speak very briefly about Mizuho's efforts and thoughts on the green transition in Africa. But in Mizuho's DNA, we don't only think about the what, we also think about the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? And we get these sort of reminders from time to time, not more so than as we approach the festive season in some parts of the world. I'm reminded that the energy required to light up Christmas trees in the United States of America alone is more than the annual energy consumption of some African countries. So that's food for thought. A bit about Mizuho. We are one of the global systemically important banks. We are also a bank with a balance sheet just under $2 trillion US. In terms of our sustainability focus, we are committed to deploying roughly $670 billion US in sustainable finance by 2030 with a baseline of 2019. Let me draw your attention to the 5th bullet point on the screen, and we think very deeply about this. We acknowledge that transition is global in its undertaking, but we also acknowledge that it's going to be local in terms of the solutions. So regions and industries will have very unique pathways in terms of their transition. See if that clips through. In terms of how we see ourselves as a bridge. We've been, over the years, forming very key partnerships with financial institutions, some of whom are in this room, across the continent. And we see ourselves as a bridge between two very important forces. Asia, on the one hand, which is currently about 50% of global GDP, and Africa, on the other hand, because 1 in every 4 humans on the planet will be living on the continent come 2050. If there is anything you take away from this presentation, is this illustration, because increasingly we are beginning to look at the energy transition using this very illustration. And we are asking the question, or answering the question, what are the pillars that actually uphold the energy transitions? And there are 6 of them: technology, critical minerals, infrastructure, production, capital, and policy. Now, here is a reality check. Africa is challenged across all of these 6 pillars. If you look at the technology sector, Africa has less than 1% of the global patents for the key technologies that underpin the transition. Critical minerals is the second pillar. That should be the bright spot for Africa, as President Adesina was pointing out. But currently, it's still an extractive play on the continent when it should actually be an industrialized hub. So we actually increasingly see the energy transition as being a double-edged sword for Africa. If you swing it right, there's a leapfrog opportunity. You swing it wrong, then we can have an Africa left back scenario. But we want to focus on the positive outcomes. And we do think that in the likes of hydrogen and clean cooking, you have triggers that can invite Japanese technology, capital, developers, and policy support. If I focus on hydrogen and clean cooking for the next 2 minutes, as far as hydrogen is concerned, our approach at Mizuho is quite clearly defined. We deploy finance, we would leverage the demand and technology in Japan, and we will work towards an outcome of industrializing Africa. As you can see on the screen, we have actually committed to $13 billion deployed into the hydrogen supply and value chain between now and 2030. And we are also undertaking some financing and advisory work here on the continent on some very prominent hydrogen projects, which are here, some of them are listed on the screen. But one thing to note is as we deploy capital, we need to think about how we extract value from Japanese demand and technology. We expect Japan and Korea to account for up to 35% of world inputs for low carbon hydrogen. And we also, it's understated, but Japan holds 34% of the technologies, the technology patents that for hydrogen. And if you think about it in context, the whole of the EU combined is 28%. And if we can use financing for Mizuho, Japanese technology demand, and use that to solve these 4 challenges that you see on the screen, then we would believe that it's job done. But these challenges are huge. Cost of capital is a huge issue for us. We had McKinsey tell us at the Hydrogen Council earlier in the year that for every 6 percentage points reduction in cost of borrowing on a hydrogen project in Africa, you can achieve as much as 50% reduction in the levelized cost of hydrogen. That's significant. So increasingly, we want to think about blended finance, working with DFIs and the ECAs. Number 2, lack of local use cases. We are not seeing enough of the green steels, the green iron, the green fertilizer, green cement type opportunities, but we think that that's the way forward in terms of the actual value add on the continent. There are unfavorable policies. CBAM is one that Africa has to be very wary of come 2026, but I think that if Africa is proactive in looking at all the different demand centers, Japan, Korea, EU, for hydrogen, they can work out African clusters. And there's a lot to say with our partners around that. Africa should think very clearly about carbon markets because that's a significant inroad and lever that Africa could pull in terms of dealing with these. And lastly, there's the infrastructure gap. And we increasingly in financing are beginning to think not just of individual projects, but we're starting to think about ecosystem financing, where we're looking at projects that have complementarity in terms of packaging infrastructure with the production of molecules and everything else. I've just got my cue. So to the last page, which is the clean cooking. In terms of clean cooking, we had a moment of truth in Paris earlier this year at the Clean Cooking Summit, which was driven by the AFDB. And these were staggering stats to us in terms of 4 in 5 Africans are exposed to harmful gases in the bid to feed themselves. It's only $4 billion a year that's required to actually move to a clean cooking scenario. For context, it's the same emissions compared to aviation industry, 2% of emissions, but yet the investment that's required is staggeringly low. So for us, we want to think with others in this room and invite to speak to others in this room around how do we create a vehicle to scale up in this clean cooking space, scale up financing, and it may well be a dedicated vehicle that addresses the questions that are up here today. But I'm going to pause there. I'm aware that I've run out of time, but okay. Again, thank you. Yep.
Great, thank you so much, Junaid. I'm curious about the, you mentioned the ecosystem financing, and in your 6 pillars, that was great. That was very illustrative. And one of the, I think, big concerns with the African Development Bank, as I understand it, is that it's extraction and that they're left on the bottom of the pyramid, the value chain, basically. So, and there's a strong interest for EV battery production within the continent in this. Mm-hmm. How can Mizuho, as a Japanese, well, Japanese has financial institution based with roots in Japan can contribute to specifically that ecosystem building?
Yeah, I think it's going to be deliberate. We've got to be deliberate when you want to build ecosystems. And I think for Mizuho, we do think beyond now just the financing. We think about leveraging our own connectivity and network, both on the public and private side, to actually pull together the necessary players that can come to the table to pull together a consortium to go into some of these opportunities. So if you look at the EV opportunity you talk about, if you can think of just the word co-location, and that's what we as bankers are beginning to say to folks who want to know how we can bank this project is, can you co-locate the raw materials, the feedstock that's required? We know that there's loads of lithium, for instance, and other minerals on the continent. But co-locate the raw materials with demand use cases as well in continent, but also with all of those export opportunities. That's an infrastructure, right? Having the right, great infrastructure and the necessary players to come into that space. So it's deliberate. It's about being deliberate, and it's about being innovative in co-locating these projects and finding the right players and then financing at the end of the day. Yeah.
Great. Thanks so much, Junaid. Okay, so Uchida-san, please.
Thank you so much, Shibusawa-san. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the great opportunity to talk about, to speak today. My name is Yuri from Johannesburg JOGMEC office. So it's my honor to introduce JOGMEC's initiatives in promoting low carbonization and hydrogen. So let me talk to the Japanese policies and how JOGMEC can contribute to the hydrogen society. So Japan has been a pioneer in hydrogen policy, beginning with the formulation of a national hydrogen strategy in 2017. In 2020, the country declared its goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050, initiating transformative changes. To further this effort, the Green Innovation Fund, established in 2021 with $13 billion, has been driving hydrogen technology development. So in 2023, hydrogen and ammonia were integrated as key elements under the Green Transformation Promotion Act, solidifying their importance in energy transition. So most recently, the Hydrogen Society Promotion Act, enforced in October 2024, this year, just 2 months ago, highlights Japan's commitment to innovation and sustainability. Through those initiatives, Japan contributes to lead in energy advancement. Sorry. So in 2023, Japan revised its basic hydrogen strategy, setting a progressive target for hydrogen and ammonia use. So for example, regarding hydrogen, so we set up aim 3 million tons by 2030, 20 million tons by 2040, and 20 million tons by 2050. So achieving these goals requires advancement in research, demonstration, commercialization, and business expansion. So Japan leads globally in ammonia power generation, with JERA starting tests for 20% ammonia co-firing at a coal plants this year, aiming for over 50% by 2028, and dedicated filing in the 2030s. Additionally, Japan is developing hydrogen co-firing technologies for gas-fired power, and targeting 10% co-firing as a step towards dedicated hydrogen use. So JOGMEC acts as a bridge between policy and business, addressing the energy trilemma of security, economic efficiency, and environmental sustainability, while prioritizing safety. So we provide financial technical and intelligence supports to both domestic and international partners for fostering global collaboration and innovation. So in the hydrogen and the ammonia sector, JOGMEC initiatives increase contracts for difference, CFD support, and establishing hydrogen hubs in Japan, and providing equity and guarantees for Japanese companies. So these efforts ensure the effective implementation of energy policies and contribute to a stable and affordable energy supply. So the Japanese government aims to achieve carbon neutrality by 2015 in order to promote the supply and use of low carbon hydrogen, etc. The Japan Society Promotion Act enforced this October, and a support mechanism with a budget for approximately $20 billion over 15 years will be launched to address the price gap in the production and transport of low-carbon hydrogen. Thus, these subsidies, which will be managed by JOGMEC, will cover the contract for difference, and all the supported projects must begin by 2030. Even after the support ends, suppliers will have to continue their operation for another 10 years to ensure the project sustainability. This initiative is in line with Japan's policy, which aims to promote innovation and public-private partnership and lead the global transmission to a low-carbon community. So in conclusion, with regard to the users of in conclusion, the CFD support is a support system for first mover business that aim to build a supply chain from hydrogen ammonia suppliers to off-takers. In addition, with regard to the users of hydrogen ammonia, the Japanese government will also provide support for the formulation of domestic infrastructure and develop hydrogen hubs in Japan that will form the basis for implementation of hydrogen society. JOGMEC will work to promote a hydrogen society through CFD support and also the development of the domestic infrastructures. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Uchida-san. The hydrogen part of the equation is very, very obviously important for carbon neutral society, and so I think it's really fantastic that I didn't realize the Japanese government had this Hydrogen Society Promotion Act. So maybe, I didn't know about it, I'm sorry. Maybe you need some PR agent to spread it. But on the other hand, so hydrogen, from my understanding, is that actually per volume, the heat calorie is low compared to other forms of energy. And of course, it's very volatile compared to other forms, like, because it's hydrogen. So there seems to be some technology advances that needs to be needed to advance this society. And I'm wondering if JOGMEC has an initiative for the technology part to make it more applicable to the society.
So your question
does JOGMEC has an initiative within the organization for the technology part to make it more applicable for usage?
JOGMEC, we also provide technology supports to Japanese companies. We have many experts on geologists and physiologists, but JOGMEC is more the financial side. We can contribute to providing finance to Japanese companies when they join the hydrogen ammonia project, both domestically and internationally, so we can take the risk, project risk, and manage the project. Yeah. And also we are talking with several companies and organizations, like also NEDO can contribute to the technology side in ammonia and hydrogen space. And JOGMEC can collaborate with those organizations and companies and to secure a stable supply to Japan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Uchida-san. So, Akita-san, please.
Thank you very much, Shibusawa-san. So let me explain about NEXI. Briefly, our introduction first. Oh. No? Okay. So the people who don't know much about the ECA is basically supporting Japanese export to overseas. But NEXI, at the same time, we are supporting Japanese overseas investment and also, of course, financing activities by the Japanese banks like Mizuho. This type of business is globally exists, so each country has something like NEXI. So our agency is owned by the Japanese government and guided by the Ministry of Economy, Trade, Industry. The activities total amount is almost over 50 billion US dollar per year, and outstanding commitments 113.5 billion. So that we do business both short-term trade receivable cover, but at the same time medium long-term insurance as well. The main products: export insurance protects trade receivable, investment insurance protects our company's equity, and loan insurance also for the bankers. Those two risks, mainly country risk and commercial risk, we cover, and those comprehensively we can cover for the unpaid risk for bankers or exporters. Now, I would like to briefly explain our business trend, particularly for African business. It's quite impressively increasing for past 20 years. The annual growth rate around 18% from 2008 last year. And particularly outstanding financing commitment is increasing a lot. Not only for export finance, but also the so-called untied finance. Untied finance, I would like to explain more detail later. Okay, so unlocking Japanese private capital for Africa. So this is what type of activities we are doing. Particularly, I'd like to introduce our untied loan program, so-called flagship program called LEAD Initiative. LEAD Initiative is basically, the purpose is supporting Japanese leading technologies and business models, and environment and energy, and alliance, like working with the African Development Bank and other regional partners. And also, our loan insurance covers, extended to cover for development type of businesses. So under this program, we launched 2022, particularly in Africa, we underwrote 1.5 billion US dollar for past 2 years. And one of the important aspects for this initiative is we try to mobilize the new investors utilizing by our insurance. Particularly, we are emphasizing the bond market or securitization program to reach institutional capitals. I would like to introduce two cases. One is a COVID-19 vaccine and healthcare finance facility with African Export-Import Bank. so-called Afri-Exim. This is an on-lending structure. So the Afri-Exim Bank is working with the World Bank Group and others important partners. So we try to support the funding for their procurement of the COVID-19 vaccine. And the lead arranger of this transaction is MUFG. They succeeded to place in the institutional investors, life insurance companies and others who are not much used under of our program directory. And the other case is the energy space, particularly renewables. We have 2 transactions in Egypt, and both of them we are working with the IFC or EBRD. Those multilaterals is a really important partners. So to facilitate green businesses, we increased commercial risk coverage for bankers. So ultimately, this will be the driver to lower all-in financing cost. Now, I would like to emphasize in our role of sustainable development impact is really important. Those previous 2 cases are quite big ticket size transactions. However, let me introduce a smaller one, how we are working for. We support under our investment insurance policy for Japanese equity investment. This is a case in Kenya. They try to work with the UNIDO and Joint Credit Mechanism project. So through the investment, Japanese farmland is a small, medium-sized enterprise. They established joint venture in Kenya, and they did the solar power project. And that is actually under this JCM scheme, the carbon credit was be recognized, and this is a contribution to the Japanese government national determined commitment. So carbon emission will be counted under that scheme. So lastly, but not the least, this is a forum for how we can consider further collaboration with multilaterals. Those are our existing cooperation agreement partners, but not only those just we are not signing off the MOU, those are really, we have real transactions. So AFDB, Afri-Exim, I introduced, ATD, we invested, and we have joint project, and other ISEC and ISDB group, also critical partners. So I don't go through all the details, but those are the cases which we have done before with those partners. Okay, I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dr. I think this is a very important topic. I think Matsuno-san mentioned about the small farmer that wouldn't get paid 6 months after doing the work, but there's been instances where Japanese corporations have done not small scale, but pretty large scale businesses and still haven't gotten paid. And so that's one of the reasons I think many Japanese corporations are sort of shy about coming into the continent. But for those kind of companies, is there some ways for them to use your facilities more readily, or is it complex for Japanese companies to get insurance by NEXI, or?
Thank you very much for your important points. I think we try to be simplified. However, I just wanted to share, we have in next several years, at least $5 billion the project pipelines. But one of the challenge is, of course, we need to simplify our policy, the customer friendly. But at the same time, the issue in Africa context is something the project has to be more speed up. So we do have some challenges in the slow progress of the deals. I can see some of the issues at the home country in Africa, like the regulatory approvals, elections, and those impact a lot. And those are really the cost for the Japanese companies as well. So we cannot control that kind of things. However, that I think one of the important collaboration with MDBs is really critical to understand the market, the prospects, or the country prospects. So we would like to exchange more intelligence with those partners and to contribute to the Japanese customers as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Akita. So now I'd like to welcome Mr. Kevin Kariuki. He's the Vice President at Africa in Development Bank in charge of power, energy, climate, green growth. So you heard the 5 presentations. Any feedback, insights, thoughts from your side?
Thank you very much, Ken. I've really listened very keenly to the presentation of Japanese colleagues. And I must say that it was a very well-designed panel because from my perspective, it comprised of important players in renewable energy, both grid and off-grid, including and off-grid, and including green hydrogen, which is an emerging important technology. So I think what I would want to say, first of all, is that there are great opportunities for Japanese companies in the energy sector. And why I say this is because I'm sure most of you know that Africa is very well endowed with renewable energy sources, including 60% of the best renewable energy, solar energy anywhere in the world, of which, and that is estimated about 10,000 gigawatts, and we have only exploited less than 1%. There is also significant amounts of hydropower generation, about 350 gigawatts. Again, only about 7% has been harnessed. You have wind, but there's one area that is of significant Japanese competitive advantage, and this is in geothermal. And here, we are aware of key Japanese companies. You have Mitsubishi, Fuji, Toyota Tsusho, Toshiba, Marubeni, among others, including JICA, which is financing most of these projects. And I would want to vouch here that, as President Adesina intimated earlier during the opening ceremony, the investment risk in Africa is actually overstated, as the empirical evidence would suggest otherwise. And in this regard here, what I would want to say is that I have seen and I know of Hitachi's experience and expertise. They are very good in construction and technology. But my plea is that there is a new emerging business, and this is IPP in transmission. I do believe a company like Hitachi would do extremely well in venturing into this business. And why I say this is because I know, for example, I think last year but one, South Africa could not evacuate about 3,200 megawatts because of lack of transmission systems. I am aware that in Kenya, there are a number of lines that will be financed through the private sector. And the same will apply in Mozambique. So I think that those are opportunities that I would encourage maybe Hitachi to pursue as they diversify their business model. And of course, I heard from Yuda on the issue of developing cost-competitive hydrogen. I know also that I was in Japan, I think 2 years ago, and I heard that you control about 29% of the patents of hydrogen, which is very important. So I think here you can rely and leverage on Africa's abundant renewable energies to ensure that Japan's energy security is safeguarded in the way that JOGMEC's plans were articulated by UDA. Here I can say that I can personally attest to the stability of the investment environment in Africa, having led the development and operation of power projects for over 20 years, with neither default nor inordinate delays in payments. Key ingredients here, I must say, is to ensure that there's equitable sharing of risks in the project development. And in this particular case, I note that NEXI can also help in de-risking the projects to support private sector investment in these projects. On distributed renewable energy, we heard about it earlier. I am aware that a number of Japanese companies have looked at Africa for purposes of investment in this area. And it is important and is the correct thing to do. And why do I say this? It's because we expect that up to 50% of new energy connections by 2030 will be through the distributed renewable energy field. Here, I am aware that, again, Japanese companies have ventured strongly in East Africa and other parts of Africa. I know Toyota Tsusho is playing a big role. There's Sumitomo, and there's another one I can't remember, but it has a name like Washa in Tanzania. And then, of course, you have Marubeni, among others. While we've also had this venturing into transportation. We heard about Terakubo's Green Wheels and ARC on e-mobility. But we are also aware of Basigo, another e-mobility business with Japanese investors, Sifao, who is associated with Toyota Tsusho. So both grid and DRE grids, and I think this is very important, are very important pillars of what we call, and enablers of what we call Mission 300. For those who may not know, Mission 300 seeks to provide electricity access to 300 million people, additional people, in Africa by 2030. But you'll wonder what is the connection, is that in order to facilitate the achievement of this goal, that is Mission 300, deep reforms will be required to create enabling environment for accelerated investment in renewable energy in Africa. So in closing, if you are in renewable energy, whether grid-based or DRE, is your preferred investment area, Africa offers the best frontier for growth. And Mission 300 will facilitate and improve the required investment environment for you to participate. I think you guys, you don't need to go back to Japan, stay in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for that invitation and challenge, actually. Would anybody care to hit the ball back to Kevin? How about you, Beckham?
Yeah, thanks for this interesting indication. We are dealing, as you said, in different transmission projects where the energy has to be transmitted. And at the moment we are supporting that through different channels. And we are getting support also from ECAs all over the continents. I think the major challenge at this is, as I heard also from NEXI, that the projects could probably be executed faster, but it's a little bit a challenge. And as I indicated in my part, that the demand is increasing that much that the future will be to secure factories or supply of equipment or solutions on time. The intention of, or the purpose of Hitachi Energy is to provide the energy to all and to be green and sustainable. And that's why the contribution from our side is with the digitalization, with the products and solutions we will contribute. We could strengthen the collaboration, and we could maybe be more dynamic to provide the solutions on time so that there is no overcost, and the energization of transmission lines, which is fundamental for the future, could be granted on time, because the grid needs to expand significant, yeah. So the demand on electrical energy is just ramping up, and it will continue. We are facing that in Europe and in other regions. And I expect that Africa will have also a huge demand and appetite for such projects. Therefore, we are very keen to support. But I suppose that the speed, if we could collaborate to have a smoother plan to implement those projects, could contribute for sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, thank you very much for the very rich conversation regarding energy. There's this concept of cost of inaction, and this refers to in sustainability. Unless you act, then there's there'd be tremendous costs in the future. So that's one. But I think for me, there's another cost of inaction. For me, being a Japanese, is that it's obvious that from the conversations today that in Japan we have the technology, we have the people, we have the money. But what we lack is the action. And so I think we in Japan need to realize what is that cost of inaction that we're paying for future generation by not acting in Africa. So I know this audience is all in agreement about this. We just need to get more people in agreement. So with that, please send my best, or just applause to my wonderful panelists, and I'll give back the floor to Solomon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ken Shibusawa-san, also for his moderation. He's a very fine and slick moderator. I've learned a lot. Let's give it to Mr. Ken Shibusawa-san. And as Vice President Kariuki said, I'm trying to look for our protocol officers to begin the process of registering the interest of those who want to remain in Africa. I'm talking to our protocol officers so that they're on standby. So if you want to remain in Africa, please, we're going to begin that process right away. In the meantime, let's take a family photo. And then after this, we'll go to the other side for the family photo where everybody will be able to fit in. So photographers, if you don't mind, we'll go there. But here, just for this group, the Ken Shibusawa group. Thanks. We have family photo there. All right, thank you so much. I'm told there's a closing remarks by video, so our guests, just take your seats. And then after that, we'll take a group photo, all of us outside here. But in the meantime, just prepare the video. You may want to dim the lights a bit. Yeah. So let's have the closing video, and then we'll go out for a family photo. Thank you so much. Just a moment, let the guests get from the stages.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to thank all of the participants for attending the second assembly of this important initiative today, and express my heartfelt gratitude to the government of Morocco for hosting the African Investment Forum. Let me also give special thanks to the bank's agent office in Tokyo and Iri Nomoto for their great jobs, as well as Keizai Doyukai for its kind cooperation. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you today. However, it is my great honor to deliver you this video message on behalf of the Japanese government. In addition, given its importance, I sent one participant from Ministry of Finance to today's forum for the first time in history. since its participation in the African Development Fund in 1973. Japan has been closely cooperating with the bank group to support African countries. I wish to express my appreciation to President Adesina for his strong leadership in enhancing the relationship with Japan. In light of the increasing development needs in the region, efforts for the private sector mobilization are vital. Japan, as a pioneer in this field, established the Enhanced Private Sector Assistance for Africa, or EPSA, at the bank in 2006, which has provided around $9 billion today. One such initiative is the Japan Special Room, which was launched at the African Investment Forum last year. Africa is a land of promise. It is struggling with a wide range of development challenges such as poverty, food insecurity, climate change, energy transition, and rising debt. At the same time, the region is endowed with abundant natural resources and, more importantly, the world's fastest growing working-age population. Africa undoubtedly has huge potential to attain high growth, create jobs, and build a solid economic structure for future generations. Today's theme and 2 sessions comes at such critical juncture. Agriculture is an indispensable component of Africa's economic and social development. Increasing agricultural productivity and improving and maintaining people's health through nutrition are important and must be achieved without placing stress on the environment. Climate change is one of the greatest challenges facing Africa today. Energy access and economic growth of African countries should be balanced with the reduction of greenhouse gas emission to achieve net zero. It is imperative each country draws an ambitious but feasible green transition path from both mitigation and adaptation perspectives based on country-specific domestic circumstances while being mindful of compatibility with its level of development. These facts suggest continent's development prospects will largely depend on whether it can successfully achieve agricultural innovation and green growth. In this respect, I believe digitalization solutions and innovative business model, which are presented today by the participating major Japanese companies and startups, will be a game changer to address these issues and unleash the continent's potential. It is time for us to co-create innovative solutions together with Africa. I hope today's session will be an important milestone for this purpose, catalyzing the investments of Japanese companies in Africa. Last but not least, next year we'll be holding the 9th meeting of Tokyo International Conference on African Development, or TICAD. It has been a major international forum open to a wide spectrum of partners to discuss together the sustainable and inclusive growth of Africa. Japan respects African ownership and will continue to encourage sustainable development driven by Africa together with the bank towards TICAD 9. I believe if we work together, we can see Africa where all people enjoy healthy and productive lives. Let me conclude my remarks by congratulating the bank team and all the participants for the success of this event. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Okay, let's give that round. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for that message, Vice Minister. Let's now go for a group photo just outside here, all of us. You've been a great audience. Please, let's go and have that photo. And have a very good evening. Thank you.